The emperor fell in love with a minister's wife. I am that minister's wife. I was cornered by him. The young emperor's gaze dark and somber. I'll make a bet with you. If Lu Shaoqing can resist temptation, I will spare you. The next moment, his tone suddenly shifted, with a certainty of success. But if he doesn't withstand the temptation, you will obediently enter the palace and become mine. I originally had quite a bit of confidence in my husband, but just a few months later, my husband became, on a certain day off. Within a single day, he mentioned that court animal trainer, 5 times. In a corner of the imperial study, I was cornered by the new emperor. The space instantly became cramped. The new emperor personally expressed his feelings. I have fallen in love with a minister's wife. Because of her, I cannot sleep. Laced with a hint of alcohol, the new emperor chuckled softly. He simply tore open the last layer of window paper. Meng Fuyao, back when I was still the deposed crown prince, I was ambushed and pursued. It was you who let me hide in your carriage. And even used your cloak to conceal me. That day, I remembered the scent of your body. Since then, my roots of love have grown deep. I once swore that I would sit firmly on the high throne. No matter who you marry, I will snatch you away. I glared at him, instead of getting angry. The new emperor laughed, twirling a strand of hair from my temple with his fingertips. The masculine aura, unique to those in power, was everywhere. He leaned in closer, his gaze fixed on my lips. I reached out to push, but only touched a stiff, unyielding mass. Your Majesty, please have some self-respect. My husband and I are in perfect harmony. I beg your Majesty to show mercy. The new emperor's body did not budge an inch. His eyes suddenly turned cold. I'll make a bet with you. If young Lord Lu can resist temptation, I will let you go. The next moment, the emperor's tone abruptly changed. His eyes filled with absolute certainty. Just then, there was a commotion outside the hall, and I heard my husband's voice. He was asking a palace maid, "Have you seen my wife?" The palace maid, of course, would not tell him the truth. I wanted to call out, but I didn't dare make too much noise. The new emperor also understood my concerns. The emperor's laughter was deep and magnetic, entering my inner ear and causing a ringing in my ears. I was released from the imperial study. The Ningli did nothing. The storybooks were right. Men by the roadside cannot be picked up, cannot be saved, cannot be acknowledged. When I saw my husband, he was looking for me. The moment he saw me, light instantly appeared in his eyes. He strode towards me, his gaze as gentle as water. My dear wife, where did you go? I know you don't like attending palace banquets, but His Majesty personally requested that the family members of Jingguan, capital officials above the 5th rank, attend, so I had no choice. My husband held my hand, and then started worrying frantically. Why is your hand so cold? Let me warm it for you. With that, my husband tucked my hand into his cloak. I looked at the familiar face before me, and my heart finally settled a little. I met my husband when I was 5, and married him at 17. Our affection for each other is very deep. He swore on our wedding night that I would be his only one in this life. How could he be swayed? Surely not all men in the world are fickle. I smiled. I got lost in the imperial garden just now. Husband, let's go home. My husband embraced me. Okay, I'll return home with my wife now. A cold, chilling gaze shot over from behind me. I dared not look back, so I leaned closer to my husband. I only hope the new emperor expands his imperial harem soon, and forgets about me as quickly as possible. However, the next afternoon, someone directly delivered a message to my residence. I was shocked to discover that the cook at my residence was the new emperor's person. That bone-chilling feeling rose up again. Just how many spies has the new emperor planted by my side? The cook said, "Madam, I can only leave when the emperor tells me to. For now, please cooperate with the emperor's bet." She told me to go to Wanhorlu, simply because my husband, to investigate a case, had also gone to a brothel. Outside the mansion gate, the new emperor's people were already waiting. I got into the carriage, and was taken to a private room at Wanhorlu. The calligraphy and painting on the private room's wall had been moved aside. allowing one to peek at the scene next door. I saw my husband, and a lightly dressed, beautiful woman. Just then, I smelled the familiar woody fragrance, and before I could turn around, a magnetic voice came from above me. The new emperor is here. He practically enveloped me, chuckling. Linglong is the courtesan queen of Wan Huolu. What do you think? Will Secretary Lu be seduced? Linglong is well prepared. Countless men have fallen under her spell. Jin and you will wait and see together. I froze. Madman. He is truly a madman. I gripped the brocade handkerchief in my hand. Linglong was indeed beautiful, and her charm was exceptional. Even I, a woman, after seeing her, felt she was very captivating. Yet deep down in my heart, I still chose to trust my husband. I lowered my voice and retorted, Your Majesty certainly is very scheming, but in this world, not all men have wavering wills. He said meaningfully, I am a man, and I understand men better than you. Just as I stiffened and almost got distracted, there was a movement from next door. Linglong's fingers touched my husband's cheek. Lord Lu, if you want to pry information from this humble servant, you'll have to pay something in return. Otherwise, why should this humble servant tell you, my lord? My heart tightened. I truly detested Linglong touching my husband. And the next moment, my husband suddenly stood up, moved 2 steps away from Linglong. His aura around him was cold. Lady, respect yourself. This official is here to investigate a case. If you don't cooperate, don't blame this official for bringing you to the Dali temple for trial. At that time, do not blame this official for being ruthless. Linglong was startled. She quickly glanced in my direction, then resumed her blossoming smile. Oh dear, Lord Lu, why are you so fierce? You scared this humble servant's heart into pounding. My husband showed no mercy for her beauty, and was too lazy to get further entangled, saying, Guards, take Miss Linglong to Dali temple. Linglong was instantly disheartened, stamping her foot on the spot. My husband was unmoved and left the side room first. Seeing this, I turned around and met the new emperor's deep, cold eyes. The new emperor narrowed his eyes. His thin lips parted, a dangerous aura bursting forth. Don't rush, this is only the first trial. The emperor's hand touched my face, and I quickly stepped back. What your majesty wanted your humble servant to see, what your mastervant requests to withdraw. That evening, when my husband returned, he directly stated he wanted a flower petal bath. He looked anxious and annoyed. My dear wife, you wouldn't believe it, I was almost entangled by a woman today. Luckily, I avoided her in time and didn't let her touch me. But tonight, I absolutely must take a good bath. Otherwise, the scent of her powder might choke you. I was amused by him, my heart full of joy. I personally scrubbed his back, and on a whim asked, next time if another beauty deliberately approaches you, will you be tempted, husband? My husband immediately raised his hand and swore, if I ever let down my wife, may I be struck by lightning, and never come to a good end. I covered my husband's mouth, not allowing him to make such a terrible oath. How could I not trust him? He is, after all, the husband I've been childhood sweethearts with since we were little. Only a few days after our peaceful life had begun, something happened to my husband again. The servant boy hurriedly returned to the manor. Madam, master was drinking with his colleagues, got too drunk, and insists that you go pick him up. I naturally didn't delay for a second, immediately got up and went. My intuition told me that the emperor still hadn't given up on that bet. Lu Qing is a role model among the women of this dynasty, and also the only woman who passed the imperial examination and entered officialdom. After the new emperor ascended the throne, he pardoned her for the crime of deceiving the emperor by disguising herself as a man, and allowed her to serve in the Ministry of Revenue. For this, I had always regarded Gu Qing as a female role model, and greatly admired her. Gu Qing was patting my husband's back, repeatedly coaxing him. Lord Lu, it is the same if I send you home. My husband hugged a railing column with both arms, refusing to go anywhere, or acknowledge anyone. The moment he saw me, my husband's eyes instantly lit up. Wife is here, I only want my wife. Saying that, my husband let go of the railing column and rushed straight towards me, embracing me tightly. The several young officials present exchanged bewildered glances. Gu Qing's expression was embarrassed, but soon she smiled with relief again, as if she had finally let out a sigh of relief. I paid my respects to the several officials. And now I must take my husband back to the manor. As I brushed past Gu Qing, she reminded me in a very low voice. Madam Lu, be careful of the emperor. I paused, then immediately understood. The female top scholar was indeed also a part of the honey trap. Soon, Gu Qing pretended she had never spoken to me, and I understood her difficulties. Since it was the emperor's instruction, she had no choice but to comply. My husband was quite apologetic to me due to his drunkenness. Waking up the next day, my husband was even more considerate and thoughtful than usual. The two of us spent a few days of sweet intimacy. My husband went out on official business and didn't return all night. At first I only thought it was just an ordinary trip. What made me even more frantic was that even the people from the Dali temple didn't know his whereabouts. My eyelid twitched terribly. I had no choice but to call for the spy cook. Go and make arrangements. I want to enter the palace, to see the emperor. The cook had clearly undergone specialized training. Her face was expressionless, showing no emotion. All right, I'll go take care of it now. Arriving outside the palace gates, the emperor's personal eunuch had already been waiting for a long time, and personally led me to meet the emperor. The imperial study was solemn and dignified. The emperor finally lifted his gaze, let out a sneer, his magnetic voice echoing in the inner hall, carrying a hint of pleasure. I don't know what you mean. I haven't laid a hand on Lu Shaoqing. I raised my head in astonishment. The emperor beckoned. Come here. I froze, unmoving. His voice deepened slightly. Don't make me say it a second time. I was pressed onto his lap by the emperor, forced to yield. The next moment, the emperor leaned in and whispered in my ear, almost gnashing his teeth. Who permitted you and Lu Shaoqing to be so intimately affectionate as husband and wife? Are you trying to carve out my heart? Meng Fuyao, you know very well that I care about you. Yet you still dare to be intimate with another every night. You truly have immense guts. Heh. As expected, he had many people planted in the Lu mansion. I hastily pulled my collar back up, enduring the pain in my shoulder, and glared at the emperor. This humble wife and my husband are a legitimate couple. Your Majesty is being far too meddlesome. You can't possibly want to crawl under my bed to eavesdrop, can you? The emperor was furious. You. He raised his hand, but didn't bring it down. After a moment of standoff, the emperor smiled again. I have left my mark on your body, and I reckon for at least the next month. You wouldn't dare to be intimate with Junior Minister Lu. Don't think that just because I'm reluctant to lay a hand on you, you can do whatever you want. I pursed my lips, and could only suppress my anger. Seeing my obedience, the emperor brightened up and said, I didn't directly lay a hand on Junior Minister Lu. It is just that, taking advantage of him being out on an assignment, I set up another honey trap for him, just to continue testing him. I was almost speechless with anger. This madman, is he ever going to stop? Just as I was retreating, the emperor once again encircled my lower back, trapping me in the small space within his arms. He warned in a hoarse voice, Fuyao, don't move around. If you anger me, I cannot guarantee that I will always act like a gentleman. I didn't doubt his words, and immediately dared not move. The emperor called a hidden guard inside. The hidden guard kept his eyes down the whole time, not daring to look up, and reported everything in detail. Reporting to Your Majesty, Junior Minister Lu encountered danger outside the city, and was saved by the Jiang family's concubine-born daughter. The two of them are spending the night in a dilapidated temple outside the city tonight. Furthermore, Junior Minister Lu developed a high fever. The Jiang family's concubine-born daughter took off her clothes, and personally held him to cool him down. If nothing unexpected happens, the two of them will return to the city together tomorrow. As the secret guard's voice fell, I glared at the emperor. My husband was perfectly fine. How could he suddenly encounter danger? It must be the emperor's doing again. You shameless. I couldn't help myself and raised my hand to give the emperor a slap. The emperor growled, Meng Fuyao, I am the emperor. The imperial study fell into an eerie silence. After slapping him, I regretted it myself. The two of them were just in a stalemate, like that, neither taking a step back first. A moment later, I had already learned of my husband's situation, so naturally, I wanted to leave. I had to personally leave the city to find him. The emperor easily saw through my intention. His chin rested on my shoulder, and he said with a half smile, I've said it before, I'm a man. I understand men better than you. You think Lu Shaoqing is deeply devoted to you. But it is just that the temptation isn't enough. I will definitely prove to you that he is not a suitable partner for you. I tried to struggle. The emperor held me tighter. In a low voice, he slowly recounted, when I was 8, I suffered a calamity, personally watching my mother being murdered, and everyone kicked me when I was down. Only you, even though you knew the imperial guards were searching for the deposed crown prince, you still hid me. Since then, I would always find opportunities to observe you in secret. I understand you even better than you understand yourself. I also know all your preferences. On your wedding day, I stood idly in the alley all night. I constantly remind myself, if I'm not strong enough, I won't be able to get what I love. The emperor's arms were like iron, like vines entwining me. Right now, I only hope my husband can pass the test of the honey trap every single time. I've wanted many times to tell my husband the truth, but I'm worried he'd cause trouble. Neither my husband nor I are a match for the emperor. He is the one in power, and my husband and I are merely ants he toys with. I was trapped on the soft couch in the imperial study all night long. The emperor caressed the bloodstain on his lip, even tasted it himself, and sneered. So fragrant. I said, you madman. The dog emperor's lips curled up, laughing playfully. I'm only mad for you. Soon after I returned home, my husband also came back. He was brought back by Zhang Jiji, the illegitimate daughter of the Zhang family. His private encounter with Zhang Jiji in the abandoned temple was the emperor's design and had nothing to do with him. Although I was displeased, you should be understanding. Zhang Jiji walked over, cleared her throat, and stood right at the mansion's entrance, saying, Lu Shaoqing, are you truly unwilling to take responsibility? Although I am a concubine's daughter, I am still considered beautiful. All I ask for is the status of a high-ranking concubine, and you're still unwilling. Seemed the two of them had already argued about this matter. My husband was so anxious on the spot he was jumping up and down. I, Lu, would rather offer up all my family's wealth to repay Miss Zhang's life-saving kindness. But I will absolutely not take you as a concubine. The north wind howled in the alley, and what is more, I was very restless last night in the palace. My hands and feet had been ice cold. At this moment, seeing my husband's stance, a bit of warmth surprisingly rose within me. How could my husband and I be so easily driven apart? Zhang Jiji snorted coldly a few times, and in the end, she didn't demand too much money. She just waved her hand and left, but she looked back again, winked at me. I hope your husband can always be so loyal to you. Her words were passive-aggressive, especially after nightfall. I understood my husband's meaning, but the bite marks on my shoulder hadn't faded yet. So I could only fob him off, just saying, husband, I'm a bit tired these days. Let's just go to sleep early. My husband was always gentle as water. He smilingly brought out storybooks and read stories to coax me to. I was in his arms. But in my mind, the new emperor's bewitching and wicked face appeared. I only wish the new emperor would get tired of this bet game soon, and let my husband and me live an ordinary life. At the New Year's Eve palace banquet, female dependents of capital officials, ranked 5th grade or higher also had to be seated. I was dressed simply, keeping a very low profile, following behind the other female dependents, almost unnoticeable. Several times, I looked up at the emperor on the dragon throne, and seeing that he wasn't looking at me, I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. A noblewoman said, I heard the emperor is about to take a concubine. The Ministry of Rights is already working on it. With the emperor's majestic and handsome appearance, so many noble ladies are utterly smitten. Wait for the selection. Time flew by, and it was already the middle of spring next year. My husband was probably busy with official duties, as he seemed absent-minded these past few days. My mother-in-law brought up the matter of offspring to me again. I also wanted a child myself. On this day, my husband was still distraught after returning home. I couldn't help but worry. "Husband, what is wrong?" My husband snapped back to reality, immediately smiled brightly, and even held my hand. Luckily, there was no real danger. I was startled for a moment. I just felt like something was off. But, since my husband's distraction had nothing to do with another woman, I didn't think about the emperor's bet. Counting the days, should be time for the After the new emperor ascended the throne, the imperial court underwent a major reshuffle. He most disliked dealing with pedantic old ministers, and all around him were young and promising officials. So, it was also a common thing for the new emperor to summon young officials to accompany him for horse racing. There was nothing wrong with it. That night, my husband read storybooks to me as usual, but I hadn't fallen asleep yet when he fell asleep first. I put away the storybook, and my husband turned over, with his back to me. The next day was a holiday, and my husband took me boating on the lake. The weeping willows are most beautiful. There is a fish soup restaurant by Mirror Lake that Miss Mew mentioned. She said their fish soup is the most delicious. "Let's go boating first, then we can go try the fish soup around noon." Miss Mew, I didn't ask further, just smiled and said, "Okay, whatever my husband says." Whenever my husband had free time, he liked to take me out to play. I had already grown accustomed to it. It wasn't until we were boating that my husband mentioned Miss Mew again. He said, "Miss Mew is the only female beast tamer in the palace, rumored to be from Miaojiang. The emperor never looks down on women, and realizing Miss Mew's capabilities, he has already promoted her to a position at Honglu Temple." The new emperor indeed valued talented women. When my husband mentioned the female beast tamer, he was open and natural. It seemed like there was nothing amiss. The warm spring sunlight fell into his eyes, stirring up a layer of delicate shimmering light. When it came to how Miss Mew tamed the wild horse, my husband was quite excited, even snapping his fingers, his face full of youthful vigor. He didn't know that in the past, when he looked forward to marrying me, he had the same expression. I suddenly realized with a shock that the new emperor's bet hadn't ended yet. This female animal trainer is probably the fourth one. The spring breeze was too strong. I choked. Cough. "Husband, what does that female animal trainer look like?" My husband answered evasively. "Wife, if you see her, you'll definitely be delighted too." I froze. "Oh husband. Husband. We became a couple in our youth. You wouldn't let me lose, would you?" When we went to drink fresh fish soup, my husband once again mentioned Miss M. He has always been thoughtful. A while ago, my husband was almost thrown off the wild horse, and it was Miss Mew who saved him on the spot. That day, the two of them rode the same horse together, circling the riding ground several times. After hearing the news, I closed my eyes, my heart filled with mixed emotions. My once firm belief seemed to suddenly crack open with a tiny fissure. When my husband returned from his duties, he brought me my favorite pastries. He was still gentle and considerate, but I couldn't smile. My husband made fresh fish soup, but I don't like to drink it. I lost focus for a moment. My husband was shocked and immediately got medicine to wipe it for me. He looked focused. "Madam, you must be more careful next time. How can a delicate woman like you get injured every now and then, like Miss Mew?" But then again, Miss Mew is no less capable than an ordinary man. I stared unblinkingly at my husband's familiar brows and eyes, and tentatively asked, "Really? In that case, Miss Mew is indeed a remarkable woman." Hearing this, a noticeable curve appeared at the corner of my husband's lips. Clearly, he agreed. After nightfall, I lay down with my back to Normally, my husband would embrace me, or read storybooks to me, but tonight, he just lay down by himself. Late into the night, he still wasn't asleep, tossing and turning constantly. He was probably thinking about that Miss Mew. I guess. I clutched the bedding, enduring until the latter half of the night before I barely felt sleep. I watched clearly as my husband gradually fell. The strange thing was, I didn't plan to stop him, even. I also really wanted to know if he could withstand the temptation. Waking up the next day, my husband hadn't left yet. He looked in the mirror, again and again, and even changed into a new hair accessory. As he left, he greeted me. "Madam, please eat your breakfast well, I am off to court." Even the maid could tell I was very haggard, but my husband didn't seem to notice. The maid spoke out of turn. "Madam, his lordship has been extra particular lately. Even his clothes need to be perfumed." My lips curled, and I smiled. My chest felt an aching tightness, as if stuffed with a ball of cotton. Will the emperor win this gamble? For some reason, I suddenly became patient, and would just quietly wait for the final result of this gamble. It turns out, watching my husband slowly fall for another woman is even more suffocating than catching him in the act. Soon, the spring hunt arrived. I was also among those invited. I understood that the emperor did it on purpose. If I wasn't mistaken, that female beast tamer would also make an appearance. On this day, amidst the mighty imperial guard procession, she rode a fiery horse dressed in a red outfit, with her ponytail tied high, looking heroic and spirited. Her beauty was strikingly aggressive. At the same time, I secretly observed my husband, noticing his gaze occasionally darting towards Mu Pingting. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, I took several deep breaths. I wonder if it was my imagination, but when I looked up ahead again, Mu Pingting also glanced in my direction. Arrived at the hunting ground, I had originally planned to rest in the tent, but not long after the hunt began, a woman dressed as a palace maid came to see me. Her attitude was respectful. Arrived at the hunting ground, the emperor rode on a tall horse, lowered his gaze and glanced at me, his eyes dark and deep. The next moment, he suddenly bent down, his long arm wrapped around my lower back, and he scooped me onto the horseback. Like this, my vision could see farther. A few jang away, my husband was standing shoulder to shoulder with Mu Pingting. The two of them seemed to be targeted by a black bear. Without knowing who blew the whistle, the black bear suddenly launched an attack. I stared straight ahead, my hand unconsciously clenching the handkerchief. I also didn't know what kind of scene I was truly hoping for. Deep down, I didn't want my husband to get hurt. But I also didn't want to see him and Mu Pingting perfectly fine. Human hearts are not black or white, there are also grey areas. I am no exception. And in a flash, Mu Pingting somehow suddenly fell. My husband unhesitatingly lunged towards her. From my perspective, I could also sense my husband's selfless. The two of them rolled together, tumbling down the slope. The black bear didn't press its advantage. With another whistle, the black bear darted into the woods and disappeared from sight. I suddenly remembered, there is more than one animal trainer in the palace. I slowly turned my face and met the emperor's enigmatic smile. He tightened his grip around my waist, pulling me even closer to him. Then, he said with a smile, "Down there is a small hill. The two of them won't die, but they won't be able to get up any time soon. I won't send anyone to rescue them. Let them spend a night alone together." It was indeed another scheme. At this moment, I felt both the defeat of losing to Mu Pingtenji and the indignant anger of about to lose the bet. I raised my hand, just about to slap him. When the emperor grabbed my wrist, his lips brushed against my ear. "Be good, I am the emperor, give me some face in public. Once we're back in the tent, you can do whatever you want with me." The emperor was in an excellent mood. His face was beaming with the joy of victory. I felt suffocated with nowhere to vent my frustration, glaring at him angrily. The emperor didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed, continuing to whisper into my ear. "I had originally wanted to make Lu Shaoqing choose between two options, but I couldn't bear for you to be in danger. Even if I could protect you well, I wouldn't allow you to suffer even the slightest harm." I was taken back to the camp by the emperor. The accompanying imperial guards and palace servants all lowered their eyes, not daring to look twice. Everyone present knows that I am Lady Lu, and I am currently being held in the emperor's arms and brought back to the tent. Only my own husband is completely unaware. Thinking about it, I can't help but feel it is ironic. Ins for a woman's use were prepared. He buried his head and took a deep breath. This person seemed to have a dog's nose. Excellent. No smell of wild men. Me. Just who is the wild man? I pressed down on the belt around my waist, preventing the emperor from further actions. He didn't insist, and said with a low chuckle, "If you don't want to bathe, then watch me bathe." He possessed a pair of sharp eyes, always able to easily read others' thoughts. Listen to me carefully. I did not personally arrange for the two of them to be together. I merely created an opportunity. I am helping you see clearly Lu Shaoqing's true colors. The honey trap before didn't work, simply because it didn't hit the vital spot. I think of you when in pain. I think of you when joyful. I think of you when eating. And even more so when sleeping or bathing. The emperor's words became increasingly direct and fervent. I raised my hand to cover his mouth, angrily whispering, "Stop talking." But the emperor didn't listen, and even kissed my palm. I immediately pulled back my hand, and he continued to sneer. "The love between ordinary men and women in this world is too shallow. For the rest of your long life, how can you even talk about growing old together, hand in hand?" I was stunned. I couldn't even utter a single word of rebuttal. I was going to lose, wasn't I? That night, my husband and Mu Pingting indeed did not return. I was also held by the emperor in his camp. Although the emperor didn't directly do anything to me, I was no longer innocent with him. That night, I slept very deeply, always feeling as if something heavy was pressing on me. The next day, I was woken up by the commotion outside the tent. My husband returned, carrying Mu Pingting on his back, separated by a curtain. I was embraced by the emperor. However, my husband was perhaps too concerned about Mu Pingting to hear my voice. Immediately after, I heard his conversation with Mu Pingtng. "Miss Mu, you sprained your ankle. Why don't I see you back to your tent?" How would he escort her? Naturally, physical contact would be unavoidable. I took a deep breath in the emperor's arms. It seemed both my husband and I had embarked on a path of no return. When I left, the emperor was not as dominant as usual, but instead whispered softly, "I'll wait for you to figure it out yourself. But don't make me wait too long. I dislike the feeling of sleeping alone." Back in my own tent, my husband was changing clothes. As soon as I got close, I smelled a scent that wasn't his. Magnolia scent, a perfume women liked. When my husband saw me, he smiled brightly, without a hint of anything amiss, as if his heart was still with me, and had never changed. "My lady, where did you go just now? Were you worried about me?" "Yesterday, Miss Mu and I were attacked by a black bear, and fell down the hill in front, only climbing back up this morning. Fortunately, both she and I are safe and sound." If I hadn't known beforehand that this was the emperor's honey trap, I would never have believed that my husband had changed his heart. I smiled faintly. "Is Miss Mu well?" My husband's gaze darted away. He scratched his head like a raw youth. A closer look showed his earlobes were flushed. "Just sprained her ankle." In this dynasty, a woman's feet must not be exposed. Only her most intimate husband could touch them. With my husband's kindness, he must have massaged Mu Pingtang's ankle last night. Right, I lowered my gaze, restraining the unusual look in my eyes. "I've had someone prepare a meal for my husband." My husband agreed. I turned and walked out of the tent. He didn't call out to stop me. If it were before, if it would definitely cling to me, and wouldn't stop until we had cuddled intimately for a while. He was so distracted at home he lost his appetite, always staring blankly at one spot. Sometimes he would grin foolishly, sometimes he would be troubled. On the third day, Mu Pingtang came to express her gratitude, saying she wanted to thank my husband for saving her. When the servants came to announce her, my husband jolted up, and he, who was always so dignified and refined, impatiently rushed to the front courtyard, and I just stood under the corridor watching him. So it was, witnessing your husband's heart change firsthand. This is what it feels like. It is not heartbreaking agony, it is more like a sudden gust of wind, blowing away the fog before my eyes. allowing me to gradually see the essence of this marriage clearly. I composed myself and also went to the front courtyard. As soon as I arrived, my husband became reserved. "Madam, why have you come?" Mu Pingtang sized me up, and the moment our eyes met, there was a hint of provocation in her gaze. She came prepared. I smiled faintly. "I've had the kitchen prepare lunch, Miss Mu. Please stay and have a simple meal." Fei Fei Ngt Fei did not refuse. The joy on my husband's face was truly obvious. During this meal, my husband's appetite even increased a bit, as if Fei Fei could make him eat more. From this day on, my husband paid even more attention to his appearance, hairstyle, and clothes. He also practiced sword fighting in the courtyard every day, and began to care greatly about his physique. Presumably, Fei Fei Ngt Fei is also a skilled practitioner, so it is only normal that my husband wouldn't want to lose face in front of her. After another period, my husband also spent a fortune to purchase a fine horse. He also began to immerse himself in horsemanship. I observed all of this with a cold eye, until my heart remained utterly calm. Spring in March is most suitable for an outing. My husband should have taken me out to play, but he apologetically said, "My dear wife, I have an appointment with my colleagues to go drinking, so I'm afraid I cannot accompany you today." He was as gentle as ever. Before leaving, he even personally brewed a cup of tea for me. Seeing that I hadn't drawn my eyebrows this morning, he even helped me draw them. However, not long after he left the residence, the emperor's people came to pick me up and took me to Willowbank in the city's outskirts. I lifted the carriage curtain, and personally saw my husband and Fei Fei Ngt embracing each other. My husband kissed her cheek. Fei Fei Ngt, in shy indignation, punched my husband's chest twice, which only made my husband even happier. My husband smiled very sweetly. I watched carefully and clearly, engraving this scene into my mind, as if afraid I would soften. At this moment, the carriage swayed slightly. Seeing my silence, the emperor slightly furrowed his brows. "What? You're still not giving up on young Master Lu?" I shook my head and laughed. "Your Majesty, since you said all men change their hearts, then why should I believe you?" The new emperor grabbed my hand and slowly caressed it, a pair of dark eyes staring straight at me. "I've said it before, I am different from ordinary men. Furthermore, even if I change my heart someday, you will still have power and status." As he spoke, he pulled out a blank imperial decree from his embrace. "This is for you. In the future, no matter what conditions you want to propose, as long as you write it on the imperial decree, I will have no choice but to comply. What else do you have to worry about? As long as you enter the palace, your father and brothers will also rise swiftly in rank, following me, becoming my woman. It will benefit you and your entire clan." I smiled silently. The Lu family, I didn't want to go back to. Taking the blank imperial decree, my mind was clearer than ever. The emperor had prepared early. That very night, news spread that young Master Lu's wife, on her way to burn incense, had her carriage fall off the riverbank, and her body could not be found, and the Meng family even welcomed back a daughter who had been fostered outside. That daughter and Madame Lu were twins. Therefore, the two of them looked similar. Since the emperor insisted on saying so, the Meng family naturally had to acknowledge it. After all, the emperor gave the Meng family the position of empress. I don't know if Lu Shaoqing will miss me, because I haven't gotten out of bed for 3 days. The emperor was like an extremely hungry trapped beast. After getting my consent, he completely tore off his disguise, revealing his true nature. Alas, I myself had nodded in agreement to enter the palace. I don't even have a chance to regret it. By the 4th day, the emperor saw that I had been continuously in a deep sleep, so he called for the imperial physician to take my pulse. The imperial physician trembled. "Your Majesty, the empress is overly indulged, which led to extreme weakness. Rest for a few days and you'll be fine." The emperor was stunned, then laughed loudly. He finally had a change of heart. I want all the civil and military officials to witness that moment. I want everyone in the world to know that you are my empress, my wife." Before the grand empress conferment ceremony, I heard news from outside the palace. Lu Shaoqing was still searching for corpses everywhere. He was like he was possessed, refusing to believe that I was dead. My heart was calm, without a ripple. How strange, the speed at which my heart changes is also extremely fast. Perhaps it was because I witnessed his heart-changing process with my own eyes, so much so that no matter what others said about his devotion to me, I just took it as a joke. On the day of the Empress consecration ceremony, dressed in my phoenix robes, I gazed down at Lu Shaoqing below. The moment he saw my true face, his body went limp, and he collapsed onto the ground. My mother entered the palace to see me, saying that Lu Shaoqing went to the Meng Manor and made a huge scene. "Oh Empress, Lu Shaoqing still hasn't forgotten his feelings for you. What are we to do about this?" I shook my head. "He hasn't forgotten his feelings, he is just completely lost me. Which is why he is reacting this way. Mother, you don't need to take it seriously. If he causes trouble again, just have someone send him away." My words happened to be overheard by the emperor. He was in a very good mood, strode towards me, and in front of my mother, pulled me into his arms. My empress is truly intelligent, she can distinguish true and false intentions at a glance. My mother gave an embarrassed smile, immediately withdrew from my bedchamber, and then left the palace. I saw Lu Shaoqing again at the Mid-Autumn Festival Palace banquet. I was already pregnant with the imperial heir, and I was looking elegant and graceful. Although I was basking in the emperor's favor, I was even clearer and more rational than before. I will fully enjoy the emperor's love. But, if he stops loving me someday, I will also accept it gracefully. Whatever comes, I'll take it. And if someone wants to leave, I will never try to keep them. That is all there is to it. Lu Shaoqing looked gaunt, asking me with a trembling voice, "Why?" To this day, he still refused to believe any of this was real. In his heart, we had always been in perfect harmony. I smiled faintly, and told him about the bet. "Lord Lu, this outcome wasn't brought about by me. It was you yourself." "Oh right, that is none of my business now." I waved my hand, telling him to leave. Lu Shaoqing froze for a long while before turning around. His back looking desolate and thin, like all hope was lost. But that had nothing to do with me anymore. 10 years later, I sat firmly on the empress's throne. The emperor's 2 sons and 1 daughter were all born to me. Used to now, everything was going smoothly.